Every morning before I even think about taking a trade, I already have a plan. I already know if I'm looking for extension or rotations, and I already know which direction I'm biased for. It all comes from the first hour of the session, or what we call the initial balance here. I know it's a concept that most people you probably heard about a lot, so I want to cover it a little bit more in depth in the way I use it to get my read on the day. So, what is the initial balance? It's the range that forms in the first hour of regular trading hours, 9:30 to 10:30 Eastern. That's it, just the high and low of the first hour. Quick note: I am on Pacific time, so the IB for me will be from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at my charts. It sounds simple, but this range tells me a lot about the rest of the day and what it's going to look like. So let me show you how I use it. Before we even look at the IB itself, we need the right context. So where are we relative to the big picture? So I'm checking um, any high time frame levels that I have, weekly opens, prior week lows, prior week highs. Where are we within like the high time frame volume profile? And then we kind of zoom in a little bit to where are we versus the prior day range and the overnight range. So uh, in this example here, you can see that we're kind of approaching that overnight low and prior day low area. So right now we're still in the same range as we were in the prior day, and we're going to see what happens when we get to that level itself. On that green line, that's the high time frame support has been. We can see that there's an MGI stack here. As I mentioned earlier, prior day low, overnight low, weekly opens all over here. And then as we get a little bit lower, you'll also see prior week low. So quite a bit of support down here. Not expecting sellers to break it on the first go. And that's kind of what sets up my context before I look at IB. Once we have the context set and the IB closes, first thing I'm looking at is the range of the IB itself, how wide or narrow it is compared to the 10-day average. I have this as an indicator on my chart so I can see it instantly. But I'm not just looking at the IB size in isolation. I also want to know how much of the average daily range, or what I'll refer to as ADR, has the initial balance eaten up. If the IB has already taken up a large chunk of the ADR, that tells you that the day's expected range is mostly used up and there's not enough room for extension. Think of it as like budget, right? How much of the day's average range have we budgeted for in IB already? This is where I want to get really specific. Once I have my bias and I see what the IB is looking like, I want to make sure I have some pretty good rules around how to execute on this. Now, if we're looking at a day that has a smaller than average IB, and it hasn't used up too much of the ADR, I'm expecting the extension, right? So what I want to see is a 5-minute close beyond the initial balance and or a 10% ADR extension beyond the initial balance or the IB. That's my confirmation that the break is real and that we have a chance to get some continuation. Once I get that confirmation, I'm just going to look for a retest in the IB area and then target 25 to 50% IB extension. Just a quick reminder again for everyone on how the ADR extensions work. If the average daily range is about 400 points and the IB high price is at 25,000, then 10% of the ADR is about 40 points. So you want to see price extend 40 points above the IB high or up to 25,040. So that's just kind of a way that I validate whether or not the retest is real. And kind of it gives me like a gate so I don't FOMO into the trade. Let's talk about rotation days really quick because I feel like I got a lot of questions about this and why I take certain like rotation or fades versus continuing with trend. So if the initial balance is above average, the 10-day average, and the big chunk of the ADR is already consumed, I'm thinking, all right, this is probably going to be rotation. So I just need to make sure that there's not a 5-minute close beyond the IB range. And then I need to make sure the price doesn't extend more than the 10% ADR that we talked about earlier. So it's just basically the flip and the upside or opposite side. So I saw that happen a couple of days in prior examples and that I'll show, but that's pretty much why I faded the trend versus going with it, because I'm expecting price to rotate for that day and we probably have some high time frame MGI or levels around us. This is a trade that I took live. Unfortunately, I don't have live footage of it, so I had to replay it in sim mode. So going back to this example here where the IB range is bigger than the average, I'm expecting the day to be rotational. You can see over here at 754 that price already swept IB low, had no continuation at all, couldn't even close below it, and then we instantly rallied back up here. So from here, I'm kind of like, okay, cool. So it looks like the IB fade that I was anticipating is already in play. Prior week lows right below us. All the support I'm anticipating, all right, like we should be good to play that here. So as price is coming back down into IB low, I'm gauging to see if we can spot some sellers failing, and then see if any buyers will step in from there. As price is pushing back down to IB low now, I'm like, okay, cool. This is actually kind of a scary candle though, because we rejected from around the prior day low area, 20 EMA. But I'm still thinking that we're going to hold here because it's a high time frame level. This is interesting here because buyers are really trying to come in. So you can see the blue bubble stacking up, and that's why I want to get long here. Got in above that bubble after the third hold of IB low, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, if you're going to fail that many times, we're probably going to have to go test the upside again. This one was a little bit of a delta unwind from the buyers, seeing if sellers can do anything with it. If not, then I'm feeling pretty good about holding the trade and should hit my TP after this. Over there to get it. PLC moves down. All that failed selling should give us some more room to move to the upside. Move I stop to break even just to, again, protect my P&L. TP2's coming back to stop me out, just really pissed me off in a bad way. So just kind of getting ready to like manage this trade a little bit, start to trail it bar by bar. I think I could get to at least the top of that node where I think the main resistance is in 20 EMA again. I just don't really want to like mess around with that area. Not in the fuck around to find out type of mood. So we're getting a pretty good push here. You need to start trailing up my stop a little bit more. Getting pretty close. I'm debating whether or not I should just leave my stop or just kind of take it all off. So I had to move it up a little bit here, right under the PLC. Coming back to me here, I'm like, dude, come on, like it's so close. This is where I start doing mental gymnastics with myself and think about like, should I just take it all off or should I like hold on to it? It's just like so little bit of points, but I decided to just kind of hold on to it and try to like follow my system. Really sucks that I missed it, but that's trading. I felt like I had a good chance of hitting it and it just didn't work out. So that's the trade. All right, let's look at another example where the IB range 201 is smaller than the IB average 268. This is telling me that the day has some potential to extend. And then when I look at the IB range of 201 compared to the ADR of 418, ADR is the average daily range. I'm seeing that definitely some room to expand away from IB. As we get over here to initial balance low, IB low, we're seeing that sellers are getting pretty aggressive. You can see a delta flip there at this candle here. And then from there, it's like we're pushing down a little bit, but sellers aren't really getting anything out of it. And this next candle, they're putting a shit ton of selling delta, but they can't get anything out of it. And you can see that price is closing at the highs. That's a pretty bad sign for sellers. I'm not really interested in getting in short here because sellers are stepping in but not getting anything out of it. So waiting to see what happens after this to see if there's any signs of like buyers actually failing on this push before I want to get short. This isn't like a perfect IB low hold. So it's a little bit more of a messy one, but I didn't want to like pick like a perfect example where it touches it and it sells off right away. The initial balance is more like an area that I want to watch, not necessarily like one perfect level. So over here, you can see that there's some pretty big buy that just fails right here, right as we touched the 9 EMA as well. So I'm pretty interested in getting short. Set my stop above the candle, but I'm going to move it down a little bit because I think it's not worth risking that much for this trade. I don't think I need to risk all the way up there. If we get above those buyers, then it's pretty much done. I want to get out of the trade. So over here, we get a nice little push down, but barely misses my TP. And at this point, I'm kind of like, fuck, I hate round tripping these trades. And like, it just sucks to hold through this. But after this, kind of like just kind of sitting there, just letting the trade work itself without panicking and like getting a little too scared. This is a pretty good move for me. The sellers continue to like set back in here and like push down, boom, TP there, move my stop to break even. Just it's what I always do on my TP2s. Always move my stop to break even just to kind of protect my mental capital. If price comes back and stops me out after I hit my TP, it's pisses me off quite a bit. So I try not to put myself in like that pissed off zone. At this point, I'm just starting to trail my runner stops down. I'm trying to see if we can get all the way down to that overnight low level, which I know typically gets tagged quite a bit during RTH. But over here, we get like a buying spike. And I think this is my fault for trailing it a little bit too tight. Maybe I should have given more breathing room because I knew I could have hit it. But this is kind of like my second or third trade of the day already. And I didn't want to get back too much in P on that. So trading my P&L set the charts, not a good thing, I know. At this point, I'm going to get stopped out here. But, I think the trade still stands, and the thesis and the idea of like the compressed IB with the potential to expand this is a great example here. Again, looking at the IB range of 201 compared to the 268, that's already telling me we're going to expand. ADR is 418. So it's telling me, like, all right, cool. We have some pretty decent room to move, some budget for the day. All right, this is from March 23rd. It's my second attempt at this IB low short. The context was that Globex was essentially very, very oversized. It was almost 1,000 points. You can see here. And I was expecting a reversal. Typically, with really big Globex ranges, I usually see the price doesn't continue it and we reverse. Let's jump into the intraday observations here. So we can see that the IB average is a lot lower than the current IB range. So that's telling me that it's likely going to be a reversal. So as we break from IB high, I'm thinking, all right, let's see if they can close and hold above. After that, you can see that price swept IB high and it did not get a continuation. So from there, I'm starting to think, all right, this is looking like a reversal. And as price starts selling off and leaving all that volume behind, the context is essentially that I'm getting pretty like bearish and that bulls are kind of losing control. Uh, After we're breaking below IB low, I was thinking, damn, a double IB break after a failure from a high time frame spot is pretty bad for buyers. So I'm starting to think about taking some shorts here. My first attempt was mostly because I saw all the buying here that didn't get any continuation, but it was pretty weak confirmation. The second one was a lot cleaner. It broke above the swing of the 460s, but this time it immediately rejected from the 9 EMA and had about 130 positive delta get unwound. So after that, I'm starting to think, all right, sellers are back in. Buyers could not get any continuation from there. So let's kind of see what will happen next. One other thing that made me pretty interested in the trade is you can see over here that volume per second goes up from like 15, 17, 17, and jumps all the way up to 28 when they sweep this at the 9 EMA. So the fact that they can't really get any continuation out of that after that really big drive by the buyers is telling me that shorts are on the table and definitely want to get below. Right here at 916, you can see buyers would not hold above IB low, giving me more confidence to hold this short. Again, failing from the highs and then breaking down below IB low on the other side and holding here with every single buy attempt failing is pretty good context for me and gives me a lot of confidence to hold this trade. At 918, you can see a really, really big buyer coming in around the 24 400s, and they could not get anything out of it. It was like some two-way tape for a little bit and just a bit of a knife fight, but I'm not gonna lie, it did make me a little bit nervous here. You can see me move my TP up and like I start to settle for like a smaller TP just because I don't know, the big buying just kind of got me a little bit worried. Uh, I think objectively, when I look back at it now, buyers haven't got rewarded for anything yet, so I should have just held on to my original TP, but you can see me kind of dragging my stop here, getting ready to like pull. My fingers is on the trigger, ready to take the trade off. But luckily, I hit TP here, and then we're gonna start moving. After we got below that guy, then I was like, all right, cool. I think we're really good, and I can start looking at my TP2 is looking a lot better at this point. Um, Typically, with very very violent sell-offs, you will see price have some pretty big bounces before it continues down. That's not always the same case for bullish days, but yeah, it's something to keep in mind for bearish days as you're seeing big sell-offs like this. Something that's kind of interesting about this day, right, is that at first the day was setting out to be a fade, so you could have shorted from the highs. But if you're looking to play a retest, now where you're thinking like, all right, well, is IB low going to hold now, and should I play that as a fade? This is where like having the rules of like having the 5 minute close and the extension is really helpful because I waited for the close under IB low before I decided to get short again. Like there's really great order flow confirmation, obviously, but I think having like some more strict parameters like that stops you from like fading both sides and like following context where it's needed, right? Uh, you could have made some money by scalping the IB low, but knowing that we failed from IB high and then we're trending down is like, yeah, more, it's like really good context for you to not take that long. Rest of this trade is really just kind of like me holding on, waiting on this like price to just torque on my TP2. So that's how I read the day using the initial balance. Context first, prior day levels, overnight range, weekly volume, then the IB size against the 10-day average, and how much of the ADR has been used up. Confirmation rules, talking about that again, 5 minute close and or an ADR 10% extension. Look at the day type, if it's going to be extension versus rotation, where can we go in terms of like IB extensions, 25, 50, 100%. Then looking at things like volatility, like does this match the environment that you want to trade in? Looking at like R-vol and 1 minute ATRs. That's kind of the full framework right there. Just kind of paying attention to, IB sizing, volatility, and then high time frame context. This is just step one. Knowing the day tells me what I'm going to game plan for, but it doesn't tell me where to enter, how to confirm, when to get out. Those are going to be a lot more like order flow based. I'm planning to make a order flow based video to kind of like go over footprint execution and the way I use it. That's something you all are interested in seeing. If you also want to see me post my preps and like trade recaps. I have a free Discord. Link will be in the description. And then I trade this all in my Lucid account. If you want to try them, use code RAGE. I'll get you this discount. I've gotten 3 payouts from it so far this month already. So hopefully we can get a couple more before the month ends. All right. Thanks, guys.